Hey spooky crew! If you're new here, my name is Jacqueline and this is Makeup Tales. On Tuesdays, I bring you creepy, scary, spooky narrations while I complete a makeup look. If you're interested in spooky stories and you like makeup, I suggest you comment, like, and subscribe. Also, don't forget that notification bell. That way you'll know when I post a video each week. You'll also get notifications for when I post my solo narrations. Those go up on Thursdays and Saturdays. Today we have a story by Reddit user 4ShotBot. The link to the story will be listed down below. The user also has a website, so that's linked down below that you should go check out. Disclaimer: the following story is intended for a mature audience and may contain graphic depictions, death, gore, sexual themes, and adult language. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Scott, and I suffer from REM Sleep Behavior Disorder. That's what the doctors tell me anyway. Basically, I act out my dreams during the REM cycle of sleep, which, if I'm having a lucid dream, means everything I experience feels much more real. But that's the problem. I don't think it's just some disorder anymore. When I was younger, probably about 12 years old or so, my parents thought it was just me sleepwalking. We moved around a lot because of my dad's work as a construction manager, and I guess they figured it was the stress of moving so often that caused it. But when we finally settled down, and it didn't go away, my parents decided to seek professional help. I never saw a problem with it personally. Never really felt like I was sleeping. It was more like a meditation state. I was aware of my surroundings, but everything just felt a little off. I would see things that other people couldn't, fantastical and terrifying creatures that loomed in the dark. But despite my reassurance that there was nothing wrong, I still had to see a somnologist. The building looked brand new. It was small and looked to be freshly painted white. It had a welcoming atmosphere as we walked in, with a receptionist at a desk on the left. "Hello, how are you today?" she asked when she noticed us. My dad responded, "I'm doing well. We're here to see Dr. Caston for my son here." He patted me on the shoulder. They filled out some paperwork for me, and shortly after, I was called back to see him. "Welcome, Scott. My name is Dr. Caston. I'm glad to see you're looking well rested," Dr. Caston said as I walked into his office. "Hey, my name's Scott. I was never great with social interactions. Hello, Dr. Caston. Nice to meet you." He let out a short chuckle. "It's all right. Please have a seat." He gestured to the chair sitting across from his desk. "Now, I would like to ask you a few questions before we get started. I already talked to your parents, but I would like to get your version of everything as well before I prescribe you any medications, that is." He had that wise old man feel about him, but only looked to be in his 30s or so. "When did this all start?" he asked when I finally sat down. About maybe 2.5 years ago, I think. We finally settled down, and my parents figured it was just sleepwalking or something. I said, with a hint of nervousness. Have you noticed a lessening of symptoms since you have settled down? Any new symptoms, perhaps? He asked inquisitively. No, not really. I mean, it just all feels real in the moment. I see things that don't quite make sense. I didn't hear about this from your parents, but it isn't uncommon. In the case that you're having lucid dreams, the added movements of this potential condition could make your dreams feel that much more real. Do you find yourself questioning reality? He was taking this conversation in a weird direction, but he was the doctor. Well, the dreams do feel real, almost like I'm meditating, but with my eyes open. He wrote something down in a notepad. What type of things do you see? He seemed to be very interested. Ghosts? Creatures that I can't find anywhere online. Impossible entities I can't describe. He jotted something else down. Well, from what I've gathered from you and your parents, I believe this should be a rather simple fix. I'm going to prescribe you melatonin at a strength of 10 milligrams. This is typically only meant for adults, but based on the severity of your case, I believe it will do you well and won't be harmful. Talk to your parents if symptoms worsen or if nothing changes. Have a good day, Scott. He wrote something down on a sheet of paper and called my parents in as I walked out the door. The medicine only rarely seemed to affect my movement. I wouldn't sleepwalk anymore. However, that just meant the things I was seeing would come closer to me. They would never touch me or anything. So I figured it was the best solution. That was, of course, until recently. I never stopped seeing those things. In fact, as I grew older, I could see more of them. They also drew closer every night. It wasn't significant enough to notice at first, but eventually they began touching my arms and legs in my sleep. The feeling of their hands was surreal, like something that was never meant to be felt, as if the cosmos itself turned into a living organism. Since it started, I had been waking up more exhausted. I felt there had to be a correlation, so I did the only thing I could think of. I decided to go see a somnologist. It wasn't the same one, but I had been seeing this one for the past few years. The building was a bit larger than the one I went to as a child. It was painted brown and had much more open lounge room with comfortable brown leather chairs. "Scott?" I heard the receptionist say. "You're back earlier than expected. I hope everything is going well." I think she noticed my bags, but didn't want to say anything. "I feel like $1,000,000, I responded drowsily. "Is Dr. Kent ready to see me?" "Yeah, you know where to go," she said before going back to something on her computer. Hey, it's me. I tried to sound as cheerful as possible to max the exhaustion. Scott, please take a seat. He generally had a cheerful exposition, but he sounded a bit more serious today. I see you've been having trouble sleeping. He gestured to my face, which I took as him pointing out the bags. Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure how to describe what's been going on. Generally, my sleep is like sleep paralysis. You know how it goes. But lately, the figures have been touching my arms and legs. Sometimes rubbing just over my heart as well. I know it's just a dream, but the feeling is so real. Please, elaborate. He sounded more serious. I couldn't tell if he thought I was crazy or if he was just trying to figure out what was happening. Well, maybe not real so much as it does unreal. Like, the feeling feels real, but the sensation is indescribable. Also, I pulled up my long sleeve shirt. In my dreams, one of them scraped a fingernail up my forearm, but I can see it. I got closer to show him. Have you gotten any animals as of late? He asked. No, just my goldfish. There was a pause. Doc, I'm not saying I think they're real, but is there any reason this could happen? Maybe a reaction to the meds? Anything? No, not a reaction to the meds, though it may be that you're building a tolerance to them. So you're able to move in your sleep again. Then your brain is coming up with reasons for the sensations you're feeling in your sleep. I can up your dosage if you believe that will help, but you're already pushing it with how much you're currently taking. Sure, it might, I guess. I wasn't entirely sure of my response, but I had to try something. As night approached and I got ready for bed, I took what he ended up recommending, which was basically just under what could cause me permanent damage. As I slept, I saw them again. There were more than I had ever seen, all poking and prodding at me. At one point, one of the things that appeared to be an old woman grabbed my arm and began moving my fingers like she was inspecting them. The whole night, my adrenaline was pumping, and I felt exhausted. My anxiety peaked when one of them, that I can't describe, stuck their hand into my arm, and I lost all feeling until I woke up. I was drained, physically as well as something else that I can't quite explain. Spiritually? I decided to do some research to see if anyone else had any similar experiences. Considering my arm was still a little numb, I wanted to get any and all answers I could. It eventually led me to some forums about paranormal experiences, typically in a dreamlike state. Someone's retelling of the reoccurring sleep paralysis episodes that eventually started affecting them in real life had a lot of attention. Things like scratches that they couldn't have caused on their own, as well as some unexplainable bruises. Some people were talking about their personal experiences. One in particular caught my eye. Yeah, I have similar experiences. My doctor prescribed me some medication, but it just made them worse. The comment was a few months old, but I decided to try and get in contact with them. I first tried just replying to the comment, but after a few hours, I decided I should take more direct measures. I found their email through some questionable means and sent them one. It mostly was just a few questions about if they had found a way to deal with their dreams, and if they found a solution through therapy or anything like that. It was about 8 hours later or so, just as I was getting ready for bed, when I got a response. But it wasn't the one I was expecting. Someone had responded to my comment, "Hey, just thought you might want to know I did some digging." And apparently this guy was sent to a mental institution recently. A few days ago, he was found dead. They labeled it as a heart attack in his sleep or something. Hope you figure out whatever you need to, my guy. That was it. Just some stranger telling me the guy died. Sure, it was sad, but it wasn't helpful at all. That's what I thought at first anyway. But the longer I dwelled on it, the more everything made sense to me. He was on medication for some sort of sleep disorder because of whatever he saw in his sleep. He was eventually sent to a mental institution, then died in his sleep by a heart attack. Whatever that guy had, it must have been similar to what I've got. The scratches and bruises, weird visions in his sleep. I began to worry that I may have something similar happen to me. I responded to the stranger, "Hey, do you know anyone I might be able to talk to? What he's talking about feels awfully familiar, and I could use some help." Unfortunately, they never responded. So instead of taking my usual medications, I decided to do something I hadn't since I was a child. Or rather, I decided to not do something. I didn't take my medication. It took a little while to fall asleep, but eventually it came to me. The things were much more handsy. They were holding my entire body down while others gathered around. I couldn't move no matter what I tried. The sensation of their hands going into different limbs prevented any movement whatsoever. It was an agonizingly long dream, though I don't know if that's what I would call it. All of their poking and prodding from that night was easily visible in the morning. There were even a few blood stains I noticed as I stumbled out of bed. The numbness was unrelenting, so I called in sick for work. I had to get everything situated. I couldn't go to sleep if I wanted to keep whatever was happening from happening. I continued to do some research and found a few pages that claimed things like keeping a crystal beside you as you slept. Typically, some form of quartz or burning sage in the house would keep spirits away. While I'm not certain that's what they were, I wanted to see if I could potentially do anything that could stop these things from touching me. So I went to a pawn shop that I knew I had seen some quartz at and bought some. Next, I went to a gardening shop and picked up some sage, a big bundle of it. Of course, I also picked up some salts from another store. It may just be a bunch of hogwash, but I wanted to take every possible precaution, so I had to pick up some salt. That night, I was ready. I had a necklace with a cross, a piece of quartz to hold in my hand as I slept. I burned an entire bundle of sage and left a little burning in an ashtray near my bed. And I had made a salt circle where I could around my bed. I thought I was prepared, that nothing could even get near me. That they wouldn't be able to touch me again. That's what I thought. But boy, was I wrong. For the first few hours or so, they did actually keep their distance. I was able to sit up on the count of the fact that I had not taken any of my meds in the past 2 days. But I didn't dare move out of the salt circle. I couldn't actually tell what was holding back, but if it was the salt, I didn't want to take any chances. So I just sat there, turning my head to look at all the figures standing around me. By my count, it was probably around 15, but I couldn't be certain. They were all just standing just out of reach of my bed. That was until one of them, that I could feel the power of, began walking to the front of the group. Somehow I could tell it was stronger than the rest, as if I could subconsciously sense its aura, and my brain was telling me, run away. A weak barrier like this cannot hold me back. It was the first time I had heard one of them speak. Its voice was deep and gravely, with no noticeable accent, like a war vet who had seen their fair share of death and smoked a pack a day to deal with it. If you simply give your body to me, everything will be over with. You will not have to deal with any of us anymore. Just then, it grabbed my heart. The pain was immeasurable, like talons stabbing straight into my heart. 1, 2, 3. My heart was still beating, but much slower than normal. Just give in, and your body will not have to die, boy. It sounded nervous, like it wasn't sure if what it was doing was right. 1, 2, 3. Still beating. Why? Was all I could manage to get out. The reasoning is beyond you, boy. Now, give it up. He screamed that last part in desperation. I suddenly remembered the crystal I had been holding in my hand and stabbed the thing in the arm with it. What happened appeared to be the crystal absorbing some of the energy from the thing's arm. It jolted its arm back and suddenly dissipated into nothingness. Without saying a word, the other things followed its lead, leaving me in a blank room, something I hadn't seen in my dreams in so long. When I awoke, I had a slight pain where my heart was, but aside from some mild irritation, it appeared to be fine. I scheduled an appointment for an MRI and went into work. everything was fine, and I rarely see any creatures in my dream anymore. But from time to time, sometimes in my dreams, sometimes in day-to-day life, I occasionally catch a glimpse of that thing out of the corner of my eye. But no matter how much I try to focus on it, I can never get a good look. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's story. Remember, if you are interested in the story, the link is in the description. Also, the link to the user's website. If you're interested in the products that I used, they are listed in the description. You'll also find all my socials, which includes my email, where you can send me any scary, spooky stories you would like me to narrate. Also, finals are going well, almost done, so the solo narrations will be back up on Thursday. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to stay glamorous and stay spooky.